Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Opinion Machine, the show about all things gaming. My name is Killjoy, and today we're looking at some more Starcraft 2 balance update changes. But yeah, we're looking at the most recent changes that happened yesterday. I believe it's yesterday, yep. That they're going to be putting now into the tester for the game. So these are all things that are coming after BlizzCon later this year, after the finals. So yeah, let's jump into it. Let's have a look and see what they've got to say. I've already had a look through this, and I like what they seem to be doing, so we'll see. Hi all. In the excitement before the accumulation of this year's WCS finals, we think it's a good opportunity to revisit the proposals made earlier in the month with a fresh perspective. Special thanks to Wardy and his Balance Test Mod Invitational, which showcases new changes and actions after further watching games and following feedback. Lower changes to make. So adjustment to old changes. Reverted the Viking health increase from 135 to 1. Oh, sorry. Hey, what? Viking health increase from... Oh, okay, right, yeah. Completely messed myself up there. Based on feedback, we'd like to pull this change for now due to concerns surrounding the Viking's subsequent increased power in TVT, as well as its increased strength in earlier parts of the game. If the Viking has any deficiencies, we believe they exist later on when endgame units and area of effect abilities start coming into play. Thus, if necessary, we'd like to tackle the Viking's strength in late game with alterations to end game units from other races, such as Tempests, rather than the Viking itself. This, I didn't really know how much this affected things, so, you know, that's cool. This was never a big change that was really a problem. I do think, however, that if you're saying late game is the issue with Vikings, you could make it so it's more resilient to spells, like AoE spells, or you could just make it so that certain area of effect spells don't affect Vikings or don't hit air units. That's a huge change, so that would definitely require some testing, but like, I don't know whether... I feel like constantly nerfing the Tempest is just kind of not good. You've already taken -1 range from it in this patch. I don't know whether that's really the issue, so... Yeah, I don't know what they can do about the Viking. I don't think it's like necessarily broken. I'd like to see it hit harder personally, but I think increasing damage is probably a bad way to go about it. But anyway, let's move on. Let's see what else we got. Reverted. Battlecruiser tactical jump cooldown increased from 71 seconds to 86 seconds. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, tactical jump honestly is less of an issue than I think. That's a real problem. So, you know, I think my idea with tactical jump is that you just make it so that you can't tactical jump to anywhere unless you have vision. But increasing cooldown I don't think is going to help too much. Reverted. Remove the research neural parasite upgrade. Infestors now come with, so they no longer come with the upgrade. So I think that was pretty powerful, so I'm glad that's been changed. Altered. Tactical jump now stuns and puts the battlecruiser into a 1-second vulnerability phase before it teleports. Last update, we tested a variety of battlecruiser related changes aimed at broadening counterplay options against the unit. At the same time, we believe the ways in which battlecruisers are currently used are overall pretty cool. I agree, I think battlecruisers actually getting some use is fucking awesome. After feedback, we like to prune and alter our changes such that we improve the feeling of fairness when fighting against battlecruisers and at the same time preserve the core of current battlecruiser play. Thus, we'll be removing changes to tactical jump, cooldown and reinstating the neural parasite upgrade. We'll also be keeping the vulnerability phase of tactical jump with one key alteration, stun. Effects such as interference matrix, fungal growth and abduct will no longer be able to cancel tactical jump and put it on cooldown. This change brings the behaviour of tactical jump to be more similar to both strategic recall and mastery recall. This is great, because the problem with that stun was like, I don't like it when things cancel cooldowns and you don't get refunded for it. I already don't like it that Widow Mines, if you blink away from a Widow Mine shot, the mine blows up and then you have to wait for that Widow Mine to go on a full cooldown. I think that should be halved when it misses, because at the end of the day, a Widow Mine's use is to take, you know, do splash damage. If you take that away, and I know it's only at pro level they do that, I still think it sucks. So the fact is, like, yes, you can still shoot the battlecruiser, but the battlecruiser no longer can be stunned, taken away. That's great. I think that's awesome. That seems like a fair change. I still think tactical jump requires you to be able to teleport to places you have vision, because I feel like that just stops early game. They're not just going to teleport into the back of your base early game. You'd have to have vision to do it, but yeah, I'm happy with that. Reverted. New upgrade found on Twilight Council. Sundering Impact grants Zealots the ability to deal +8 damage on enemies charging impact. Reverted adept health increase from 70 to 80, adept shield 70 to 60, reverted new upgrade found on the council, amplified shielding. Now the stuff they get on the new changes in a sec are flipping awesome. This thing was just crap. In all honesty, I don't think the +8 damage thing. I wouldn't have a problem with it. It was +2, like charge gave you +2 damage, so that'd be 4, and then it gave you +4, and that'd be 8, and then because no, it wouldn't, because it's only one attack in it. But like being able to have that charge damage wasn't a problem, but I think you need to make it scale throughout the game. So late game you have the +8, but they're not going with that. They changed it. The adept definitely needed a big change, which is cool, but these two upgrades were a bit like meh. We'd also like to put a pause on these changes in favour of some alternate proposals. For Zealots, we hear concerns regarding Protoss' resulting overall power level after this change. For Adepts, we hear feedback this upgrade isn't impactful enough, so if we were to reintroduce, we'd like to do slightly old states. So, let's look at the new changes. Creep. Active creep tumours may no longer be cancelled. Last year, we made some changes to creep spread in order to promote the gameplay surrounding creep denial. This year, we'd like to try to take it a step further with this change. Aimed at the dance we typically see between Hellions and Queens, we believe the change will increase both the interaction between players and the skill cap for parties involved. So my guess here is that currently you can, once you choose to put one down, that's it. You can no longer cancel it. I think that's cool. Honestly, I wish creep just didn't go quite as fast. I think that's the when you see creep spread, like it goes so quickly. Like everyone knows at the moment that, or at least everyone feels like Zerg is the problem. You don't want to see them like massively nerfed into the ground, but considering there's definitely things you could do there that would, like this is probably going to help, because it means people are going to have to actually think about where they put the creep tumors. You can't just like smash them all down and then like, oh, they're coming, cancel them. It's like, no, you've actively spent that energy now, so this should be pretty cool. That word, pneumatus, I can't pronounce it. Carapace research cost increased 75 to 100. I actually like this change. I think 75 was too cheap. When we initially made the change to reduce the cost of this upgrade, we had been receiving feedback that the different variations of various PvZ and Mortal all-ins were too difficult to differentiate and scout. Since then, we've received additional feedback that Zergs have gotten better at defending these all-ins, and that changes to the Warp Prism in the same patch were alone sufficient at dealing with this issue. Additionally, we believe the upgrade is currently too omnipresent in both ZVT and ZVP, leading to players feeling less able to surprise their Zerg opponents. Thus, we'd like to revert the previous change, which we believe will lead to more thoughtful decisions making regarding when to research the upgrade. Yep, great change. And it's not a massive jump, it's only 25-25, but it's too cheap for what it does. Infestor, now here's a huge change. Remove the Infested Terran ability. New ability, Microbial Shroud, I think that's how you pronounce it, Microbial. Creates a shroud that obscures ground units below, reducing the damage they take from air units by 50%. Lasts 11 seconds, costs 100 energy, 9 cast range, radius free. New upgrade found on the Infestation Pit, Evolve Microbial Shroud, requirement Hive. Research 150, research duration 79 seconds. I'll go over my thoughts on this in a sec. What do they have to say? While we're not completely shelving the previously proposed changes to the Infested Terran, I'd like to try an alternate proposal. This new ability is designed to replace the anti-air role that the Infested Terran ability occupied. A key difference, however, is that Microbial Shroud acts as more of a force multiplier rather than a standalone spell with lethal potential. This means that mass infestors will be significantly less powerful than before, and that the other Zerg ground units will have to be mixed in for maximum effectiveness. Our first iteration of this ability has it gated on Hive, as we believe having this ability unlocked on Lair Tech restricts mid-game airplay too much. In addition, as this is one of the most experimental and unique abilities we've ever introduced, we expect many applications to start as it goes live. As a point of clarification, the first iteration of this spell will not protect buildings, nor Colossi, nor will it protect any against Oracle attacks, Colossus attacks, or Yamato cannon. It can also not be cast while the Infestor is burrowed. Right. I'm not sure from watching games that Infested Terran were the biggest problem. I still think that fungal growth is a genuine issue with the Infestor, because it does two things. It stuns or slows, and it does damage. And you can, I don't know if it stacks, but you can constantly fire at it. It can mess up Vikings, it can do like, it's just a really powerful spell. Because when you have an army that's fairly mobile like the Zerg, and you have the ability to slow down the opposition's army, that means that the Zerg can just rush in there and kill everything. I would like to see fungal growth change so it either does damage or it stuns. It doesn't do both. If you have it so it slows down the army but doesn't do damage, fine. That's like way more acceptable. If the fact that it does damage and both, it needs to be more like the Raven and more like the Sentry, which are probably the most balanced spellcasters in the entire game. Personally, I never saw Infested Terran as a problem, but I am also not a pro player. I watch the games more. Like, I enjoy playing casually, but I watch the games more. I think Fungal Growth is the most frustrating thing to watch, and I would like to see that really looked at and changed, personally. This sounds cool, though. This actually sounds like a cool ability, but Switch, you know, like... I don't know. I just think Fungal Growth's the issue, not Infested Terran, but I could be wrong. You know, we'll see. It's a cool change, though, nonetheless. Nidus Network Worm. Nidus Worm cost increase from 50-50 to 75-75. Thank God. We generally enjoyed the increased usage of Nidus Worms this year, and we believe one of the keys to increased usage is to decrease the worm cost of 50-50 compared to 100-100. However, at the moment, we believe that Nidus Worms are slightly too cheap. Slightly. Specifically in the early and mid-game stages after a Nidus network is built. At this fragile economic timing, a failed Nidus Worm might not be punishing enough, and just the threat of the Nidus can pin too much on the enemy army at home. As we have already have 2 proposed changes in the Nidus network/worm, we will be evaluating which of the changes should go through, including the possibility of having all 3 go live. At the same time, however, we want to ensure and we preserve a certain percentage of the Nidus' power, so we believe it is key to encouraging map-wide multi-pronged attack options for Zerg and pulling apart turtling enemies in the late game. Nidus is definitely in the balance of being too good or not good enough, and I think with the current changes, which we'll go over because we've got more at the bottom, I think it's in a good place what they're planning on doing it. Alright, now some fun stuff. Zealot. The charge upgrade no longer provides Zealots with +8 damage on impact. Instead, it increases Zealot's movement speed from 3.15 to 4.72, up from 4.13. Now, I don't know whether this means it gets rid of the ability to run in. The concern we've had regarding the Zealot is its raw frontal power, especially when compared to its ease of use and relative difficulty of defending against them. Thus, we'd like to try this change that aims to exchange its direct power in favour of increased mobility. This change would also restore the age-old relationship between weapon upgraded Zealots and Carapace upgraded Zerglings, because an exchange of damage for speed moves his power into a drastically different area. We categorise this change as very experimental. We're especially we'll be looking at how the increased speed impacts the relationship against kiting StimD units. Now, does that mean it no longer gives them the boost, or that gives them the boost and it gives them the increased speed? I need to go test that because I don't know, but I like this. This is really cool, making Zealots a bit quicker. They're probably going to be brutal late game, you know, like as an attack, but we'll see. Adepts. Resonating Glaives reworked. Instead of increasing attack speed of the Adept by 45%, it will increase the attack speed of the Adept for 60% for 6 seconds after completing a psionic transfer. Whew. We view Adepts as having 2 primary problems. Its role overlaps that of the Zealot, and it's viewed as having low utility in the late game, which we believe is due to the Zealot overshadowing it. Not only do Zealots and Adepts have similar matchups against enemy units, they both control and function similarly by being strong frontline attack move units, and internally we call these pushers. This is especially exuberated by the previous version of the Resonating Glaives upgrade, which highlights the raw frontal power of the Adept and draws away from its distinctiveness and coolness, which we believe comes from the psionic transfer ability. Thus, the new direction we'd like to take with the Adept is to rework the Resonating Glaives upgrade into one that moves it away from the direction of being a strong pusher and towards one that highlights the Adept's defining characteristics: Psionic Transfer. With this newly designed upgrade, Adepts will achieve only 92% of its previous upgraded damage when used optimally in a frontal fight in the long term. However, it will become much more effective at burst damage, for example, after a shade in for a surprise worker harassment or when you need to break a marine tank push. At the same time, it will still have obvious counterplay such as banelings, widow mines, building walls, or running away until the attack speed bonus runs out. In addition, this new upgrade could add a back and forth dance where both players attempt to engage during the preferred Adept state. Hopefully after this change, Adepts will be more pointed and overlap less with Zealots, especially in the mid to late game, as well as other experimental changes. The stats and the ability are subject to change. This is pretty cool. I do like what they're doing, and this is they're saying that they want the Adept to be used more in the later game. Do something with the Reaper. Give the Reaper something then, because the problem is the Adept. I see the Adept and the Reaper as a very similar role, with kind of like scouting and light harassment. But at least the Adept gets more use in the later game. The Reaper needs something where it can actively have a hand in, even in just the mid game or something. I mean, I don't know whether they're going to change the Reaper anytime soon, because the problem is you'd have to lock it behind upgrades. You can't just give the Reaper anything more to start with. I'd like to see more of them used though, but yeah, it's cool. I like what they're doing with the idea of this using Sonic Transfer. You pop out, bam, it's only like 60% attack speed. That's pretty cool. We'll see how powerful it is though. I feel like those two changes are the biggest changes, and hopefully it'll make Protoss, you know, be in a better state. This one should have been done a long time ago. Added heroic tag. Neural Parasite can no longer target heroic units. Due to the increased power of the newly improved Time Warp, we have concerns that the power swing gained from abducting and then neuraling a mothership might be too high. With this change that heavily leans into gameplay fantasy, a mothership will always be able to contribute to the fight to favour of a Protoss player. Should have done this a long time ago. Thank God they did. And then there's some bug fixes. And then we'll go over what all the changes are now. The Thor's high impact payload will now receive a proper upgrade values. Oracle Void Ray Sentry weapons updated to prevent weapons from firing slower than intended. These units are not intended to fire slower when switching targets compared to the live game. Void Ray Sentry weapon icons upgrade levels now show properly in the info panel, and fix the bug where Lurker had less range than intended. So, these changes will be published to the matchmaking queue shortly. As always, we'd like to reiterate the changes are not final, and we were actively looking at your feedback. Finally, below is our full list. So we've gone through most of the changes before, but you can see that there's actually quite a lot. So, pre-infernal, great. I wish that did more damage, that upgrade, but hey, what can you do? Good change, probably. Cheaper, great. High impact payload, don't know, haven't tested this one. I've heard mixed opinions on it. Apparently some people say it's too powerful, some people say it's not powerful enough, doesn't get enough burst damage. The medevac upgrade, I messed around with this, didn't feel like it was that much faster, but you know, it was alright. Advanced ballistics, having reduced range, great, that's a good change, and the same with the Tempest one, perfect. Raven, increasing the matrix cost, but making it last longer, and increasing the Raven speed, awesome. I really like these changes for the Raven. Battlecruiser now stuns, puts the battlecruiser into a 1 second vulnerability phase before it teleports. In this state, the battlecruiser can be damaged, but tactical jump may not be cancelled. Perfect. Great change. The Yamato cannon will no longer cancel itself if a target... Ooh, hang on. No longer cancel itself if the target in transport becomes cloaked burrow. Instead, the Yamato cannon will miss. I hate this change. I hate it. But, you know, fair enough. And then the mule. Terran actually has what I would consider quite minor changes. Maybe the Thor's the biggest one, but apart from upgrades being on the fusion core, which will hopefully help with those play, which is pretty good. So there's possibly some big changes for Terran there. Creep. Active creep is no longer be cancelled. Great change, probably, because it means you have to actually think about the energy you're going to spend. So it's probably going to be a higher level than it is more low level. Overlord, making Carapace research increase. Good change. Microbio Shroud for the Infestor is an interesting change by removing the Infested Terran. I'm very curious as to see how this goes. This should be interesting. And also making an upgrade. So you have to... When Infestors start then, Infestors can only do fungal growth. You have to get the upgrade for both Parasite and... Wow. That is actually quite heavy nerfs to it, thinking about it. Interesting. Lurkers, from last time, I like what they're doing with the Lurker. Make it better. Great. There needs to be something used. Broodlord's actually working properly, that's good. And then all the Nidus stuff, so it's increased cost. Cooldown increased from 0 to 14 when you summon it. And then all the initial unloads and stuff, plus the upgrade of propulsive... they've changed the name of it. Propulsive... I can't even pronounce that. They didn't say that, but they've changed the upgrade name, so it's Propulsive Perseus something or other. not good with words. Interesting, it's no longer called Secreted, whatever it was. Protoss. They got the bug fix or whatever it was. Charge now providing extra speed, great. Sonic Transfer now increasing for 6 seconds attack speed, so that'd be interesting. The Observer, this one's weird, people don't like this Observer change, it's odd. Void Ray getting a new upgrade in flux range, making it faster, seems like a good idea. Tempest, anti-air range decreased from 15 to 14, good. Health increased from 150 to 200, shields decreased from 100, so yeah, better against EMP. Time Warp now affects the units in addition, air units in addition to ground. Time Warp is now comes out much faster and can no longer be neuraled. Overall, I'm actually pretty looking forward to a lot of these changes, seeing what they come in with. I just want to see, it like more even. I would say that Terran have the ability now to go into certain upgrades a lot faster with their their air units. generally. The battlecruiser isn't getting like ridiculously nerfed, which is nice to see that. Raven's getting a tiny buff and a little nerf, you know, so this is all pretty good stuff. The Zerg are getting like nerf, minor nerfs, but nerfs. This is an interesting change. And the Neuroparasite has less range. I still think they should have less range than that, but Lurk is hopefully getting a buff. Broodlord is getting work. Nida's getting buffs, nerfs, which is good. And then Protoss getting a couple of early game buffs on the Zealot and the Adept, and on the Void Ray. So, yeah. All in all, still pretty interested in this. I'm going to be really interested to see what goes through the final patch. But yeah, I'm kind of liking what they're going with this, and they've got rid of some of the changes that I think were a bit crap. We're going a bit too upgrade heavy. So, but yeah, that's going to do it for me today then, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, if you like the video, hit like. If you want to see more of this content, hit subscribe. And obviously comment down below, give us your thoughts on what you think about StarCraft 2, like what races you play, do you think it's balanced, all that kind of stuff. Obviously follow us on Facebook and Twitter, links in the description below as well. And until next video, I'll see you then.